I mean, you guys know the history of the Baltimore Ravens. They hadn't traded a single first-round pick for a player, let alone two.
Not my most favorite player, Mr. Marlon Humphrey.
You said it. I mean, he's coming off of a 2025 season that was not very good. And that's probably, barring a trade, that's the most likely avenue now for them addressing that spot.
He has I think, a very tradable contract here.
All right, welcome everybody. This is the first episode.
Yeah, I hear you fine.
First episode of the Crab Shack. Crab Shack is where we talk everything. Today, we're going to start off talking some Baltimore sports, Orioles and Ravens, and we're bringing on Luke Jones from Baltimore Positive, AM 1570, WNST, Baltimore. That's Nasty Nestor. He hasn't been called that in a long time. He'll probably get a kick out of that. But I'm saying, that is Austin. We want to bring the Chesapeake Bay into it. Maryland, not just Chesapeake Bay, Maryland, all of Maryland. So we're trying to bring on guests. So if you know somebody that's interesting, I'll leave the link to my email, Austin's email. You can email us. And when we book shows now, there might be some times where it might just be me out here and Luke's getting ready to come on. It might be sometimes where it'd just be me out here or Luke. But today, our first show, we really wanted to be together, but we didn't really have the place over by him at this time. But we got Luke's already here. So we're going to bring Luke up and we're going to talk some sports. If he just gives me a second, as it's been about a year since I've been playing around with this stuff. What's up, Luke?
What's going on?
Hey, my name's Sam, and that's Austin. Now, I just want you to know that I grew up, literally, you can walk outside of my house. I can look up 53rd Street and see Bank Street where Nestor grew up. So I grew up with Nestor and Colgate. And so we've known each other for a very, very long time. So I have the right as a guy from Colgate to bust his chops every once in a while.
There you go. Anyone who can bust Nestor's chops is a friend of mine, right?
Yeah. He came on a podcast about a year and maybe a year and a half ago. He came on with me and we had this. It was a quick one. Just really was us just talking and, old times, a little bit of sports and stuff like that. But,
very cool.
So just going to get into it. Oriole spring training is in fact, we got a couple weeks before opening day. And I definitely want to get into that. But obviously the fiasco that's been the Baltimore Ravens. I just want you to know, and as I was telling Austin, since 2017, all the political stuff, I really stopped watching. I haven't wore a Ravens apparel since then, but I got my Super Bowl hat on today. With the new head coach and the Crosby deal, just kind of walk us through that. Just do it real quick. I know it's kind of been beat to death with with Crosby and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everyone was surprised when the deals originally reported. Now 2 Fridays ago, where, I mean, you guys know the history of the Baltimore Ravens. They hadn't traded a single first-round pick for a player, let alone two.
Right.
But I think anyone who's watched Max Crosby from afar, certainly his 2 head-to-head meetings with the Ravens, we go back to the 2021 season opener, you go back to the home opener 2 years ago. I mean, he kind of single-handedly wrecked the game in both instances. So I think we all see what kind of player he is. And I think the Ravens absolutely were excited about this. I mean, to kind of, my thought on it, there's lots of conspiracy theories and all that. And I don't know if we're ever going to know the 100% truth. And I think it is up for interpretation, because a physical for one team is not the same as a physical for the next team or the 30 other teams necessarily. And it's not just like as simple as a pass fail, like multiple choice test. But I think, for anyone that just kind of looks at it and says, well, they got their 2 first-round picks back and they signed Trey Hendrickson. And yes, that ended up being the ultimate outcome, but it's not like Trey Hendrickson suddenly became available, right? They could have just signed him from Jump Street. They clearly wanted Max Crosby, but as they go through this process, understanding, just like if you or I buy a house, right? It goes into escrow and you're going to most likely have a home inspection, and you're going to really make sure before you sign over your life, basically, in terms of a major investment. And in this case, the Ravens, 2 first-round picks, you were going to have you were going to look at this and you were going to take this seriously. Everyone knew he had knee surgery, right? So, I'm not going to sit here and say the Ravens were blindsided per se, but they also had the right to run scans and have all their medical people look at all the imaging and examine him. And if they had reservations about this, they needed to do their due diligence to get some other opinions. They did, including the team doctor of the Dallas Cowboys, who also were interested in Max Crosby at some point at one point in time. And ultimately, they decided that as the deal was originally agreed upon, that they couldn't move forward with that. It's not the first time. It's not the first time it's ever happened with the Ravens. It's not the first time it's happened with other teams, and it's not going to be the last time. It's not something that happens all the time, but it isn't something that's unprecedented by any means. And that's why no matter any time you hear about a deal, especially when it's announced by a team, they say reaching an agreement pending the completion of a physical. And normally that's a throwaway line, but in this case, it certainly was not.
Yeah. So
do you think there was any level of buyer's remorse there? Do you think like actually once the deal terms came out and the fans got a hold of two first-round picks, do you think that had anything to play into it about?
Well, other than just if you start to have more concern about his knee than what your concern level might have been going into it, just based off your conversations with the Raiders. But I mean, I don't know about you guys. I can think back to when the Ravens signed or agreed to terms with Ryan Grant, the wide receiver of the Washington Redskins. What was that, 8 years ago? And that was panned from Jump Street. I mean, that guy had kind of been a complimentary receiver, and I can't remember the exact terms off the top of my head, but they were giving him real money. And right off the bat, everyone's like, what are they thinking here? I think the Crosby deal, while I'm not going to sit here and say that there weren't some people that questioned whether it was a little bit too much. I mean, you guys follow national media and know Ravens fans just like I do. I think the overwhelming sentiment was positive, right? I mean, I don't think there were a lot of people saying that, oh man, this is moronic or anything like that. So, I think the buyer's remorse comes in when you start to, like I said, I mean, it's no different than if you think you're buying a house for $750K, and then when you have a house inspection, you kind of say, wait, this is not the value that we're getting here. Then I think, I mean, if you want to categorize it as buyer's remorse there, but I never got the sense that, that the Ravens like agreed to this and then immediately had second thoughts. I think this was, once they really started taking closer looks at the knee and started getting some other opinions, I think from that point, they kind of said, we can't do it. Now, doesn't mean that they didn't necessarily try to alter the deal. That's always an option. And I think, Eric DaCosta was asked about that last week and didn't give a direct answer. So I think leads you to believe that they certainly were willing to maybe revise the deal. But I mean, in terms of buyer's remorse for 2 first-round picks, once they had a heightened level of concern about the long-term health of Crosby's knee at that point, they got to a point where they just said, we can't do this.
Do you think they were do you think that it was a ploy to maybe that, because I thought I heard that they wanted both of them. They wanted both of the players. Do you think that, or, I mean, I don't know. I think I was listening to you and Esther talk that why would they wait to get, what's his name from Cincinnati?
Trey Hendrickson.
I'm bad with names. What's that?
Trey Hendrickson's his name.
Yeah. Do you think they were, if they wanted him, but they wanted them both?
I mean, they say that. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say there wasn't some non-zero chance of that happening, but I don't know. I mean, you're talking about in terms of cash, right? And you can always do things with the salary cap, but I have a tough time believing they're going to pump $60 million per year in cash into 2 edge rushers when you look at the state of their O-line, right? When you look at their other roster needs. So I don't know that part of it. And that's not to say they didn't have some dialogue, but that part of the story to me reminds me a little bit of the old saying, doth protest too much, right? The Shakespearean line where you start to say, all right, this seems a little too convenient to maybe be a little more cover than it actually was. So I'm not going to say it wasn't impossible, but let's face it. I mean, and this goes back to my original point about just, the idea that Hendrickson was always out there, and ultimately what they signed him for, it's not like that was this great bargain that was much lower than what a lot of people were projecting anyway. So, Was there some non-zero chance of that happening? I suppose. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I'm still pretty skeptical that that was something that was that had a really good chance of happening at the very least.
The with they lost their center. So talk about. So I just want you to understand that I really don't. He keeps track of it more than I do. I listen to you guys, but I know they've lost a lot of players, and I know a lot of them went to the Giants. If I'm not mistaken. At least a couple of them went to the Giants. So he's grabbing them. Are they? Just tell us what they've lost and maybe what they have gained other than Hendrickson.
Well, hold on. So hold on real quick. So specifically, they've lost a bunch of players to the Giants. But I wanted to ask you this specifically because I thought you might have a little more of an opinion, a strong opinion on this. So one of the main players was Linderbaum, right?
Sure.
Who was traded to the Raiders, and one of the not my most favorite player, Mr. Marlon Humphrey, had, I don't know if you saw this, but there was a exchange on Twitter, I believe, between Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey, where Hamilton had basically put up a graphic, I think it was like a Family Guy graphic or something, of Linderbaum being traded, and there was like a heartbreak emoji. So clearly the feeling was, hey, I'm sad that this man's leaving. I think most of the Ravens fan base was sad as well. And Marlon Humphrey chimes in essentially saying, somebody else had responded to that tweet saying, I have a feeling that Hamilton seems like he hates the Ravens because I guess they feel as though he was more silent than he should be for our signings, and he had more to say about people leaving, which weird take. But regardless, then Marlon Humphrey hops in and says, oh yeah, he's exactly like that. He's that type of guy, like as if he really does secretly hate the Ravens, their star safety who has given them, the Ravens have given him career money, somehow secretly hates the Ravens. Can you make sense of that, why Humphrey would be saying that? And what's your opinion on it?
I think it's much ado about nothing. I think those two have a really interesting friendship. And you alluded to this. I mean, Marlon Humphrey is a certain way on social media, and anyone who follows his, listens to his podcast and everything. He's a eccentric personality, I guess. Maybe that'd be the best way of describing it. But I don't think there was anything to that. I think that was just needling his friend, just kind of calling a spade a spade. Now, but your point is why you have to be careful with that kind of stuff, because people aren't always going to perceive it that way. But Kyle Hamilton is, right, of all the things the Ravens could possibly be concerned about, Kyle Hamilton's at the bottom of the list, right? He's all pro safety. He's a leader. He's a great player. He keeps himself, in great shape. He's never a peep of trouble. Unlike Lamar Jackson, even no problems getting a long-term contract done with him, right? So that was much ado about nothing. That was just more, just Marlon Humphrey's unique sense of humor in his mind, and those two having a unique friendship. But I don't think there's anything at all to that. I don't know 100% certain on that, but I feel 98% certain that was just kind of two buddies kind of needling, one needling the other and kind of being sarcastic.
Yeah, that's
okay. That makes me feel a little better about it.
It was a little strange, especially if you're not familiar with what their friendship is.
I think, well, to be honest, I already have I've already kind of have a bad taste in my mouth, I think, with Humphrey. So it didn't take, I don't think I'm alone in this with much fans, I think, is just not super, haven't super enjoyed his last few years with his off the field stuff. I think he also recently was spotted at the Seahawks parade, Super Bowl stuff, little tweets. He said some things on his podcast earlier last year that people were not in love with. But he has I think, a very tradable contract here. I'm wondering if you agree, if you think he should continue to walk in a camp this year, or if the Ravens should pursue. His performance also is pretty well below average. for especially for the money he's being paid. How do you feel about Humphrey? You know, kind of his performance on the team, his these antics, whether they're anything to read into or not, but they keep on becoming a reoccurring story, and really his future with the team. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much of an opinion about the stuff on Twitter, and yeah, I mean, I think most of that's much ado about nothing. He's a quirky personality. It's not for everybody, right? So that part I don't have too much of an opinion on, and I don't think the team really has any concerns on that front. But you said it. I mean, he's coming off of a 2025 season that was not very good, and he was excellent in 24, and in 23 he was hurt and missed what the I want to say large chunks of about 8 games that season. So it's definitely been a up and down last few years for Marlon Humphrey. There's no question about that. But I think part of the problem when you look at his contract, and Eric DeCosta's already said he expects him to be on the team. They haven't made a move yet. He was just owed a roster bonus here recently, so doesn't mean they couldn't alter his base salary, but all but confirmed he's going to be back because they've already given him money for 2026 at this point in time. But you kind of look at it from a trade standpoint. Could they trade him? Sure, it's possible. They'd also be eating a ton of dead money to do it without a whole lot in cap savings. And Austin, you just made the observation that other teams are going to make as well, right? He did not have a very good year. So I think from that standpoint, I'm not sure what exactly you're going to get for him that's really going to make it worth your while from the standpoint of knowing how much dead money then goes onto the cap for this year. So I think what they're hoping for is new coaching staff. Obviously, Jesse Minter being a defensive-minded head coach. They have a very highly regarded secondary coach coming in from the University of Notre Dame who's really well regarded. And Humphrey's in a contract year, which should be some extra motivation for him, knowing that he's playing for either an extension in Baltimore or his next paycheck elsewhere. I think they're looking at all those variables and hoping that they can take a little bit of a calculated gamble here, calculated risk here, that all of that can add up to him having much more of a bounce back season, more in line with what he was 2 years ago, which he was excellent 2 years ago. But no, he wasn't very good last year. But I think all of those factors at work kind of lead you to believe that probably not going to see him go anywhere. Not saying it's impossible, but at this point, again, I'm not really sure what the trade, what a trade offer would even look like that would make it worth it for you to absorb a lot of dead money and not really save a whole lot from a salary cap perspective.
So what kind of moves do you think they're going to be doing to kind of bump up a lot of the people that they lost and what they have? I mean, didn't you say that did Lamar? I know you had mentioned him restructuring his contract. Have you heard any word about that? Has he done it yet to free up any kind of room?
Well, they were able to restructure his contract while keeping it. I mean, it's the same deal. The way these long-term deals work for the highest priced players, guys that have huge base salaries, they basically have clauses in their contracts where if the team wants to create salary cap space, they basically take someone's salary. And Lamar was owed, I'm trying to think what the number was off the top of my head, $52 million in base salary, new money coming his way. So what they basically did was they take basically all of that and they turn it into a signing bonus, and then they can stretch that out over future years from a cap perspective, and it creates cap space. Long story short, no, they didn't create they didn't sign a new contract. They just move money around. The salary cap, to put it in real simple terms, and I'm not trying to make this too complicated, it's basically accounting. Right? I mean, you can kind of spread things out in different ways. You can structure it in different ways. Ultimately, yes, do you have to account for every dollar that you pay a player on your salary cap at some point in time, whether it's this year, next year, or even the year after Lamar Jackson signs elsewhere, retires, is traded, whatever it is, you can kick it out to the future. But obviously when you do that, there's consequences. It's just like running up a big credit card bill, right? You can have a balance, but it's going to cost you the longer and longer you have that balance on the books. So, but they've done that, so they've been able to create cap space. They have cap space. I mean, and they've made some moves. I mean, Hendrickson, they brought in, they've addressed the safety position. They re-signed Chidobe Awuzie. They signed Durham Smythe at tight end. That helps fill the void of Charlie Kohler. But really, the position group that really stands out right now, whether we're talking about the 14th overall pick in the draft next month, or anyone else that's out there in free agency or anyone they need to trade for, they need to improve the offensive line. There's no doubt about that. This offensive line wasn't good enough last year, and that was before they lost Tyler Linderbaum to the Raiders. So they signed John Simpson. They brought him back to play left guard. He was their starting left guard 3 years ago. So they hope that that's an upgrade over Andrew Voorhees. But who's going to be their starting center? Your guess is as good as mine right now. It's go look at the draft prospects. Go look at the centers in the draft. That's probably, barring a trade, that's the most likely avenue now for them addressing that spot. So, and at right guard, could it be Emory Jones in his second year? He was their 3rd round pick last year. Could be, but I don't know. I'm not ready to just hand him the starting job. He's got to win it. So I think very much makes an argument, with that in mind, that need to draft a center and either go sign a veteran guard, which there are still a couple names out there, or you're going to need to draft a guard to at least beef up a competition between whoever that player would be and Emory Jones. Maybe you try Andrew Voorhees on the right side. But I think the other element to keep in mind with this Ravens team, and I think this is going to be really important for them. I alluded to Jesse Minter already, but you kind of look at this coaching staff in general. I think there's one thing, a takeaway from the 2025 team. Did we overrate the Ravens' talent a little bit? I think that's fair. That said, they also weren't very well coached, or they didn't play like a very well coached team. So I think a big name as it pertains to the offensive line is Dwayne Ledford, their offensive line coach, coming in from the Atlanta Falcons. Very highly regarded. You kind of ask people around the league, he's probably regarded as a top 5, top 6 kind of offensive line coach. They're going to need him to kind of work the secret sauce there too, because you're going to be counting on at least a couple young guys here. Even if you draft a center, right? Is that guy going to be ready to play from Jump Street? So I think coaching is going to be a big part of this equation for this team to bounce back. They still have plenty of talent. I don't think this team is bad by any stretch of the imagination, but they have lost some free agents, and you're going to be counting on some young guys, in this draft where they are going to make 11 picks. And you're going to be counting on Jesse Minter and this new coaching staff to hopefully have a different perspective, right? Sometimes, just like with any business, sometimes it's time to make a change with the boss or with certain department heads. And sometimes it's the same exact employees, but they might just communicate in a different way, and it might be able to connect a little bit different and get better results. So, I'm still optimistic about this football team. They still have a lot of work to do. As any team does in mid-March, when you're talking about building out what your roster is going to look like for 6 months from now. But I definitely think the coaching factor is going to be big, and especially with Ledford coaching that O-line, because let's face it, going into 2026, who do you feel the best about on the O-line? Maybe Roger Rosengarten at right tackle. Ronnie Stanley's still at left tackle, but he's another year older. So they've got some work to do. There's no question about that.
How about your boy Fa'alele? Any confidence in him?
Well, he's a free agent.
Remains on the team, huh? Giants don't want him.
Yeah, he's an unrestricted free agent. So I don't know if the Ravens are going to have any interest in bringing him back. I kind of feel, considering how much grief he got from the fan base on social media, and look, I get it, right? As long as we're not being personal, I think we all understand he wasn't good enough. So I think from that standpoint, it's probably best for him to go elsewhere, get a fresh start. Maybe it's not with the Giants. Maybe it's in Cleveland, right? Maybe he joins the Browns with Todd Monken being their head coach. But I think the Ravens will have a fan mutiny on their hands if they try to bring back Daniel Fa'alele. So I would expect them to go in a different direction, and he'll be playing elsewhere in 2026. That would be my guess.
How about we'll do one last player before we move on to the Orioles. How about Abike or whatever his name is? I know he had a neck injury, and I know the last report that I had, or somebody I heard saying that he's working on it, that it's still possible that he could play this year.
Yeah, we don't know yet. Nnamdi Madubuike, first of all, he's guaranteed money. Like his salary this year is guaranteed. And that's why a player honestly, that's why a player negotiates. As a free agent, you negotiate guaranteed money for this scenario, right? So he had a neck injury sustained in week 2 of last season. Didn't play the rest of the year. The Ravens have been very hush-hush about it. He has not said anything about it publicly other than just a couple, tweets where it's been very vague, where he's alluded to some optimism, but nothing definitive. Eric DaCosta was just asked about it last week once again, did not want to comment on it. So I think right now it's tough to really read that. He's working out, but I can't sit here and say that the fact that he's working out means that he's playing football, right? Just
Yeah.
even if he's never medically cleared again to play football, well, he's a young man in his 20s who's a great athlete, right? I mean, it doesn't mean he's just going to retire to the couch and, eat Doritos and gain 100 pounds over the next year, right? So me too. But no, I mean, I think, you would think based on what is coming out from his perspective that there's hopefully some optimism, but I would also caution that just like with the Max Crosby scenario, the Ravens doctors have to clear him, right? And I can think back to the scenario, Zach Orr, when his playing career unfortunately came to an end because of a spine condition that was discovered. And it was a shame. I mean, Zach Orr was on his way to being a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker and was on his way to a nice payday. The Ravens wouldn't clear him. He had to retire. A lot of people forget a few months later, he attempted a comeback. He attempted to get cleared by another NFL team that would say, hey, we're okay with the health of your neck. We're okay with signing you. We're okay with letting you play football for us. He couldn't get anyone to clear him. So while he may have visited a doctor that maybe had a more optimistic outlook, or maybe they're keeping this close to the vest and maybe they're waiting to announce. I don't really see why you would keep this a secret if there was good news, if they had definitive good news. So that's where I'm still a little hesitant to say that he's going to come back or that it looks like he's going to come back. But I don't know for sure that he's done, right? I don't know for sure that. Yeah. So I think, as is the case, like I said, with the Crosby situation, I would assume, and John Harbaugh alluded to this even when we asked about Matabike a few times during the course of last season, that he's seen specialists, he's seen he's gotten second opinion, third opinion, right? So did his optimism come because one doctor out of who knows how many maybe gave him an optimistic outlook, or did something, is this something where I also know that there are certain conditions or you can have certain injuries where, it can get better over time, right? And maybe it's something along those lines. So that's a long-winded way of saying we don't really know yet. I think the truth will reveal itself, even if the Ravens, if they draft a defensive tackle with their first round pick, that might be a little more of a hint that maybe they don't expect Matabike to play again. If they don't draft a tackle in the first few rounds, maybe that's a sign that there's more optimism. So we'll just have to wait and see. But certainly, they missed him last year. I mean, the guy's a phenomenal player. So you hope that he can continue his career. But when you're dealing with the neck and the spinal cord, certainly not something, it's one thing to talk about Max Crosby, how good he can be playing on a bum knee or something like that. When you're talking about the neck, it's life and death. So doctors and medical staff are going to be extremely cautious.
Please tell everybody where they can get any information for Orioles, Ravens, where they can see you at, where they can. So I know you got a text line and all that stuff. Let everybody know where they can hear everything about you and can listen to you and stuff like that.
Absolutely. You can hear me on the regular. There's no set schedule, but I'm on regularly on AM 1570 WNST based out of Towson with Nestor Aparicio. We're talking Ravens. We talk Orioles. We'll talk different things like that from time to time. So, but you can check that out. You can follow me on social media at Baltimore Luke, whether that's Twitter, that's Instagram. And certainly you can check out all of my work at baltimorepositive.com. You can also go there to sign up for our text service. So, text service, any significant breaking news, whether it was, we thought a trade for Max Crosby, and then news that the Ravens had backed out of it, and then the news that they signed Trey Hendrickson instead. Any significant local sports news sent directly to your mobile device via the WNST text service. You can check out all of that, though, at BaltimorePositive.com.
You're the man. That's why I brought you on, man. I appreciate it. You got anything, Austin, before we roll out?
No, again, much appreciated. You're a wealth of knowledge, sir.
Yeah, he just listen to him talk. That's why I brought him on. He's got enough information and everything that anybody's going to listen to this it's going to leave a lot smarter. Hey, so if you'd like to support the channel, well, I know we're at the beginning, but I'm going to put a QR code right now on the screen. And if you click on that, that'll just buy me a coffee. That will help us out with a lot of traveling we're going to get ready to do and everything. So if you like this kind of stuff, we really would love you to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. So when we put up a new episode, no matter what it is, it'll notify you to let you know that we post it. All right. So we hope to see you on the next one. We have a country singer, Miggs. His name's Miggs. Let me check it out real quick. Yes, he is on all streaming platforms, iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon. His name is Miggs. He's a country singer out of Baltimore. It looks like we're going to set up the date. He's actually going to be coming in with us together and probably bring his guitar. I think we should be good with him singing. And I hope you guys like it. We'll see me and Austin. Say bye, Austin.
See y'all later. Drug City, baby.
Drug City. All right, man. We'll see you on the next one.